Hey everyone, it's Brandy from Brandy Burrow Astrology, back with Ellie Adams from YouTube channel Let's F with Astrology and SaturnSeasonAstrology.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, so here we are doing part two. So part one is on Ellie's channel, Let's F with Astrology, and then this will be part two of the Ladybird Lake, I don't know, possible serial killer. Yeah. So basically a ton of mysterious deaths, all ruled accidental drownings, but there's been a lot. So there's a theory that there's a serial killer or that there's just some sort of foul play or something not right with these deaths. So we're investigating the forensic astrology. And this is part two, where we'll look at 3 other victims and study the astrology and see what we come up with.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, the first 3 that we looked at, there's something fucked with it. Like with how they're being ruled and what actually looks like might be going on. They don't really line up for me.
It doesn't line up. The facts are weird about the victims, and how they're found. The astrology is weird. So far with the first 3 victims we looked at on your channel, it does not look accidental.
No, it doesn't.
It just doesn't. So I invite you to go watch part 1 on Ellie's channel. Look at those. We're going to look at 3 more right here. So and I'm not going in any specific order. Just we got some good timestamps on these. So let's start with Martin Gutierrez.
Okay.
25-year-old found, he went missing November 18th, 2018, was found a few days later. I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the chart. Let's just get started on looking at the charts.
Okay.
Okay. And this is when he went missing. You see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. And so this is November 18th, 2018 at 1:15 a.m. Ellie, why don't you start with this one? What do you find crazy?
Well, I'm noticing, and I'm going to verify on my phone here real quick, just to make sure I'm not crazy here. But the last one that we looked at on my channel had a Virgo rising and a Pisces descendant. Correct?
That was the one where Neptune was right on the descendant. Yes.
Yes. And this time we have Neptune right on the descendant from the 7th house. Which, in these charts, the descendant is representative of the perpetrator, and then the ruler of the descendant would also represent the perpetrator. In the case of, in these charts, you generally want to look at traditional rulership, but that fucking Neptune right there, like being the modern ruler of Pisces, it does stand out. Then we also have Jupiter in the 3rd, which was another fucking theme of 3rd house activity in the other 3 charts. Yeah. Which is like,
sorry, I'm back here doing the hand motions. Like, again, like yes. There are themes. We get a lot of 2nd house so far in these charts. We get perpetrators always showing up in the 3rd house of like neighborhoods.
Yes. And the thing about Rainy Street is that it's a small street, right? And really, like, this neighborhood really appears to be very small too. Like, it's just kind of like you can look at it on a map, y'all can if you want to check out kind of but it's a small area, but they do, from what I understand, it is kind of considered like its own little neighborhood.
Yeah. And if you're watching part 2 before part 1, and that's totally cool, you can. Just really quick, Rainy Street is a small area of Austin. Bars, kind of a very social scene. A lot of this is where these people are last seen on some of the charts, or nearby areas. And then we have the Ladybird Lake nearby, and people are ending up in this lake.
Yes, after having a night on Rainy Street.
Yeah. For years now. Years.
Yes. And I'm inclined to think that the one that kind of started, or I don't necessarily think that one ties to this, but that one does show, and I'll just say briefly in case you haven't seen part 1, briefly, this guy was found in 2008 in the lake. His eyes were duct taped. His hands were bound. His feet were bound. And this fucking death was ruled a suicide. Not really sure how logically that happens, but it does kind of go to show that APD might have a history of labeling things incorrectly, perhaps.
Doesn't make sense. And all these, there's a Facebook group, you know, I'm trying to figure out what to say about it. It's a Facebook group, you know, dedicated to these mysterious deaths, and like there's a spreadsheet that was made from it. And so yeah, there's, you know, and these are all mostly accidental drownings. Like there's a lot of them though. And so yeah, things are just weird.
And it's crazy how many aren't identified people.
Yeah,
like that's insane. Like there are so many that they just don't know who they are.
yeah.
which is really tragic.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is tragic, but
yeah. And I don't know the story about, I'm still researching a lot of this myself. So I'm not sure like why aren't these people identified? Is it, I don't know if it's a question of families wanting people identified, or if they just simply haven't found any, you know, anyone tied to the victims. I don't know, but it's weird.
Yeah, it really is.
So Martin Gutierrez is one of these victims. He goes missing. He's ruled by Mercury in this chart, in Jupiter, in the 4th house of endings. He is co-ruled by the moon in Pisces, which is sitting in the 7th house. If we have a perpetrator,
he's right up the perpetrator's ass, or on the perpetrator's, or maybe a nicer way to say, on the perpetrator's turf. Sorry,
in their turf. Either
kind of
the same thing. Yeah, it's right there, you know. And like you said, similar to the very last chart we discussed on your channel, we got Neptune right there on the descendant. And so we were discussing, you see this in criminal and forensic astrology charts when there's substance, maybe alcohol, maybe drugs, maybe being drugged. And so this is a little this is concerning, seeing Neptune right there.
Also the luring,
The
kind of feeling like, here, kitty, 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 kitty.
Yes.
Kind of. There's
my cats are looking over.
They're like, you talking to me?
Like, you got something for me? Yeah. But exactly, luring in. And yeah, this chart, like the other ones we discussed on your channel, also showing 3rd house activity. So this chart is continuing with a theme here.
It is. This chart also has that Mercury retrograde.
Yes.
Which tends to be, it comes up a lot in charts where like shit's not really known. Like, you know,
yeah. When we're looking at these, and not, I wouldn't say every time, you know, but like most time when you have the victim in a retrograde planet, not a lot of times it stays ruled the way it is, or yeah, the truth just is never official.
And Gemini is the ruler of that 10th house. So law enforcement, right? Representing 10th house representing other things too, but in case, you know, like this law enforcement, it feels like it's less likely to want to shift.
Yeah. Going to just, you know, if this person's been found, but let's just say we haven't found him, and we're pulling this chart right off the bat. We have him, Mercury in Sagittarius, in a detriment. You know, he's not placed well. He's in danger. He's in harm's way. You got his moon inside a house of a perpetrator. This is not accidental looking.
No.
You do have Uranus in the 8th house. I will say that, you know, sometimes you get that, but it's not like, it's not ruling anybody. It's not, I think this Uranus in the 8th house could just be hey, we're going to stamp this as an accident.
It very well could be, because, in this chart, you have Mercury making contact with both rulers of the 7th house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's wide with Jupiter, right, as a traditional ruler, but it's retrograde and it's moving towards it.
And it's 13 degree. It's an exact square.
Exactly. So that to me does not, just seeing it make the contacts like that.
Yeah. And where else did we see that? We saw that in 2 of the charts.
Yes.
On your channel, where the victim and the perpetrator making exact degree aspects.
Yes. So that's also kind of a theme too.
Yeah. I mean, let's just say, like, if we're really, looking at, is this murder? Is this homicide? Is this accident? It's really odd, at least 3 out of 4 charts so far, that you would have the 1st and 7th house rulers making exact contact. That is not an accident energy.
No, I don't think it is. And I think you're right with Uranus in the 8th house is just being like, okay, we're gonna stamp it as that.
And it's retrograde too.
Yes, it is. Yeah, motherfucker is retrograde.
God damn it. So, it's, yeah. And we got some things here, with Martin, it was ruled an accidental drowning, and, it was found that he did have alcohol in his system. And you got like Pluto there in the 5th house, where you find drinking, having fun, these kind of things. There is evidence in the charts of how this is going to look. And I just think the Uranus and the Pluto, Uranus in the 8th, Pluto in the 5th. Yeah, the guy, quote, drowned. He was drinking, so you get evidence in the charts too of how this is going to be labeled sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's go. What do you think? Should we look at where the chart when he's found?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump over to Martin being found. Here we go. So this was about a week later. This is November 25th, 9:50 a.m. If we were to look at the previous, I always like to follow the initial rulers here. So Mercury, Neptune, Jupiter. Mercury and Jupiter right there together in the 11th house. Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, they're even closer now than
Yeah, and you got Neptune kind of in the 2nd now. The moon in this chart in Cancer just leaving the 7th house. And, you also have Saturn straddling the ascendant there, if we kind of want to take a fresh look at this chart. Interesting. The moon being almost in the 7th house, kind of another pattern, things being back home.
Yes. And also with Cancer on the cusp of the descendant and the moon right there in the 6th, there is kind of another feeling of like watching.
Yeah.
Of kind of sitting back perhaps and watching.
And we're seeing that in the chart. So when these bodies are found, if there's a perpetrator, the perpetrator is either watching the news like crazy or right outside watching, maybe from a distance. This is near downtown.
It is.
You have balconies, you have all sorts of views.
Yeah, I mean, and even on Rainy Street, there are like I was talking about before, there on the one we did for my channel, there you get to a certain point past this roundabout and there's no longer bars, it's like apartments and shit. So I mean, and also the bars on Rainy Street even have like, some of them have, I went to one last night. it has 3 stories and they've got rooftop decks where you can kind of observe. I mean, there are places even just on that street where one could observe.
Yes.
And have a decent vantage.
And there's a pattern in these charts with being observed.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's also a little pattern too. I think it was the third one we looked at in your part 1. That when the body's found, Pluto's back in the first house. We were seeing that again. When these victims are found, Pluto is in the first house.
Yes, and yeah, in the first, and then in one of them, it was also in the 7th. I think the first one was the 7th. The other ones, yes, but yes, there is like a yes.
It's like a danger lurking. It's either, on the turf of a victim, back in the, home of a perpetrator. Pluto's in very strong houses when these bodies are found. It just makes me feel like this is a sign at the time, like this isn't over.
It's also Scorpio in this chart, is on the cusp of the 11th, and Pluto's its modern ruler. It's like, 11th house, like social shit and like groups and shit. And it does kind of, I don't know, seem like it could be somebody lurking from that kind of a vantage point, having that kind of a
yes. And if we're dealing with a serial killer here, this kind of reminds me of and we bring this up a lot in forensic astrology because you just see this in crimes, but like the perpetrator end up being one of the people that helps the search and rescue, or involved in some sort of like some kind of good Samaritan, that tries to help.
Yes. A lot of them is sick. A lot of them really seem to get off on that.
Yeah. So interesting. We're seeing that here as well. And so, yeah, do you have any other thoughts about this chart or the one before? This kind of seems like a continuation, like, oh yeah, we saw this on the other chart.
Yeah, it does kind of it does kind of feel like like a part 4,
Part 4. And there is something here too that we're seeing as well. The 10th house in Libra.
Yeah, with the wanting things to look pretty. The cops wanting
Venus right there, smack on the midheaven. Yeah, let's look harmonious. Let's look pretty. Let's not alarm.
Yeah. And Austin has I think we have a tendency to do that here there are a lot of reasons. I think that sometimes people want to pretend like this city is still the same city it was in like the 90s and the 80s, and it's not. It's bigger. There's more crime that happens here now with more people. That's going to happen. Also, there's a lot of tourist shit that happens.
Yeah.
That if you start talking about possible serial killers, that could really kill tourism.
Yeah. Especially in that area. That's on another chart where someone was here for the ACL festival that ended up in the water. You got the ACL festival, you got South by Southwest, all partakes in this area.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. And then we have a couple other charts. We got some good timestamps on. We're going to go to Julio Santos the third. Gosh, all these cases are just incredibly sad. I know, especially the ones we're doing on part 2, not especially, but these victims, their families very much in the news, wanting answers. And this is one, Julio's family has been in the news quite a bit. And Julio goes missing June 5th, 2015. This is kind of one of the earlier ones. 2:30 a.m. This is kind of, I'm looking at the spreadsheet here. Really, this has been tracked since 2008, but you get a lot of these happening really like 2014 and on. So this is kind of one of the earlier.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. One of the earlier ones.
And it's in a double-bodied sign. We got a Pisces rising chart. So, if we're looking at multiple victims, this makes sense because you got this double-bodied sign on the ascendant. Julio is going to be ruled by Jupiter in the 5th, and also modernly Neptune in the 12th.
Not a good sign.
No, not at all.
But the fifth house kind of with Jupiter in the 5th shows like he's probably having a good time, but you know, like in the, you know, the fifth house is the pleasure house. It's a good time house, having fun.
It is. And Jupiter's in Leo, the natural
Yeah.
ruler of the fifth house, like expression.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like he was probably having fun before this, which, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We also have the moon co-ruling Julio, which is in Capricorn. Not a great sign for the moon, in a detriment, not for a birth chart. All my friends are Capricorn moons, like every single one of them. It's funny. Like that's the only people that will hang out with me. But so I think Capricorn moons are beautiful. Let me just separate forensic astrology from natal for a minute. Forensically,
Yeah.
you got the moon representing someone in a sign of detriment. It just means that they're not positioned well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's right, and Pluto's right up its ass.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. That's dangerous right there. But it's out in the open. It's in the 10th house.
It is. It is in the open. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if we look at Jupiter in Leo, in the sign of the sun, so the sun gets tied to this ruler here, in the 3rd house, in neighborhood.
Yep. There is that neighborhood thing again. Also, there's something about like Mars traditionally ruling Scorpio in the 8th, on the cusp of the 8th house, coming down to the, you know, the 3rd, that feels kind of fucky there too.
Yeah.
Like more dangerous than Mars and Gemini would usually feel to me.
Right. That can be very Gemini, forensically speaking here. A very two-faced sign, you know, like let's put on this facade, but really this is going on. You know, it can put on a good face. In a forensic chart like this, seeing Mars kind of in that, it's like, ooh, don't trust what you're seeing here.
Yeah.
Manipulative, you know.
Yeah. And then you have Mercury retrograde.
We got Mercury retrograde, which is common in a lot of these charts as well. Either Mercury's in a shadow period, or it's actually retrograde.
And look at how fucking close it is to being in the 3rd house too. And it's the ruler of the 7. I mean, it's like it's almost also there. Kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of lurking around. Now we don't, in this chart, we don't have the tight victim perpetrator aspects or 1st and 7th house ruler aspects that we are seeing in a lot of them, but it's positioned nearby, you know, and it feels close.
It is. I mean, if you look at I mean, with Mercury with Jupiter is a little further. It's I mean, it's certainly not as tight as the other ones, but it's within 3 degrees of, what is that, like 3.5 degrees of Neptune.
That's true.
But that's still not super tight like the other ones you were talking about, you know.
It is making a square though. It's connecting. Interesting though that Mercury's kind of backing up though.
Yes. It's moving away from that. Yes. Yeah.
Is this because, okay, we kind of saw this, I want to say, and I'm going from memory, I want to say in chart number 3, in part one of the charts, we saw where, okay, hey, one where things are moving, things are kind of weird, and
yes, chart 3. Sorry, we've been looking at so many charts. Yes, it is chart 3.
I think so. I know, I'm trying to remember, but you know, and I was stumbling on my words, but I was trying to say like, hey, this feels like someone's responsible, but kind of in a disconnected or a distant way. This feels the same to me. Was this person left for something to happen to them? Instead of like, let me put my hands on you and make sure something happens. I'm speculating, but is this person put in danger then left? And it's kind of like the perpetrator knows what the outcome will be, but it's a little bit more hands off. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And that actually, with Uranus in the first,
Like a staging.
because yeah, like and even just with how weird that is, like I know exactly what you mean, but that is kind of weird. There is something about like the weirdness with it, and the with Uranus, you know, Uranus is weird, does weird shit. So it does seem like this, like kind of what happened to him is perhaps kind of weird. I'm not being very very articulate right now, but
It's hard because you don't want to, I mean, we're speculating, we're looking at the astrology and saying, hey, this would fit this type of scenario. You know, but these are real victims and real people. You don't want to just put a story out there. You know, that's why it's hard. But it's like, it feels like, again, someone's responsible, but
just a little less hands-on with it.
almost like, I think this would be okay to say, almost like when the perpetrator leaves the victim or they physically separate, that the victim might still be alive at the time, but they're positioned to where harm will happen to them.
Like leaving
them too close to water or leave or something.
And kind of, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
This feels kind of similar to what we were seeing. So we're seeing a couple different patterns.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
I hope I'm making sense.
No, you are. I get what you're,
yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. The whole separating kind of like, what does that look like? But it definitely looks like some person is responsible again. We're seeing that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And I guess before we leave this chart, the Saturn in the 8th is
not a good sign.
No, it's disturbing. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to when Julio is found. Okay, and this is on June 7th. And, you know, if we want to, again, kind of follow the rulers like we've been doing, you got, let's see, we got Mercury in the 12th house. And then we got the Jupiter in the 3rd, Neptune in the 10th. Every time these bodies are found, one of the rulers are in the 10th house.
Yeah, and then that Neptune there in the 10th, it's a little wider than 5 degrees, but it still kind of feels like we don't really know what the fuck happened here. That's, you know, like it clouds things. And that and Mercury, which was the ruler of the 7th house in the other chart, now in the 12th, feels like hiding.
Yeah, and this is kind of early on.
Yes.
You know, I have to look at the spreadsheet here, but it's like kind of hiding. Yeah, like, ooh, am I going to get away with this? Or let me just kind of play things low key. Not like in the chart that we saw with Martin, where it kind of looks like the person's out in the open or nearby or watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a little bit more hiding here.
A little bit more hiding. We got Pluto returning home in the 7th to the perpetrator's home.
Mm-hmm. Which that happened in another one. That I think it might have been the first that we looked at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moon in the 9th, co-ruler, like I said, like, you know, bodies of water.
Right.
Being found there.
Pretty literal chart. You know, this time, if we want to kind of see how the police are handling in this one, you know, they're now ruled by Jupiter in this chart in the 3rd house, and Leo. I would have to go back and look at the notes because I studied so many of these. I get myself kind of confused, but I wonder in this case, I mean, the family doesn't have answers, but were the police being a little bit more open here? Were they not trying to, at this point, paint it or shut down different theories? I wonder.
You know, that's real. I mean, That's very possible. I mean, this was also towards the beginning. So, they didn't have as many to say deal with. So there wasn't perhaps as much of a need to hide, or not hide, but just kind of pacify, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, no, 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 no. That's not what's going on here. There might not have been a need for that at that, you know what I mean? Like, there aren't as many for people to question, but now there are. Now there are.
Right. Right. Yeah. And Mercury's still retrograde in this chart too, by the way. I want to point that out.
Yes, it is. Hanging out there.
Retrograde Mercury, not getting all the answers they need. And then we have I want not victim number three in this part series. Aaron.
Mhm.
Aaron Rublik.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay. So Aaron goes missing October 9th, 2014. So this is actually before Julio.
Mhm.
And in this chart, he's going to be ruled by the sun, because this is a Leo rising chart. So he is the sun in Libra in the third house.
Mm-hmm.
Third house.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something funky with this neighborhood. Every single, this is number 6 now. And we always get third house activity going on. And Rainy Street, like I said, it is a neighborhood. It's not just Rainy Street. It's like an area.
But it is a small, it is a small, I mean, if y'all want to check it out on a map, it is considered a neighborhood of its own, but it's small. Right.
It's small. Yeah. It's not like, but there's some residential, there's very social, like,
Yeah, I'll just say this straight out. I think it's somebody who, if there is a perpetrator, it's somebody that either lives around there or considers it their neighborhood for some reason. This could be because they work there. This could be because they're in that area a lot. But they have ties to it for some reason. They have ties, and they do think of it as theirs. For some,
Yes, absolutely. Aaron also has the moon co-ruling, moon in Aries in the 9th house. We get a lot of 9th house activity too. That's where we find large bodies of water. Yeah. And so the moon is there. The perpetrator here would be Saturn in the 4th and in Scorpio. We could also look modernly at Uranus, which is in Aries, visiting the same house as the moon as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 7th house ruler, or the traditional ruler in the 4th, does feel meeting with Aaron, like, meeting with him. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got Neptune in the 7th here too, which we've seen before.
Yeah.
This isn't a rulership here, but Neptune's visiting this house. So if there's a perpetrator in these cases, there does seem to be a pattern of also either alcohol being involved or drugs or some sort of substance that can cloud judgment, or maybe put someone in a position where they can't defend.
Yeah.
In a weakened state.
There are also several, now again, I can't verify any of these, right? But like on the Austin subreddit, on that Facebook group, and even other places, there are a lot of people who have claimed to have been drugged.
Yes.
On this street. Recently, somewhat, it comes, and again, I these are their experiences. Neither one of us have any way of knowing what actually happened, but I do think that it's interesting that there are a fuckload of people that talk about having been drugged or feeling like they were drugged, and a lot of them are men. Which is, you know, and I know that, you know, drugging happens when you go out, that does happen, but it just, I don't know.
Yeah. There seems to be a pattern. There seems to be other accounts of, hey, I went here and this happened to me, you know. And I was reading that too. It was actually a guy saying his wife had a couple beers and like was completely had to take her home because, you know, 2 beers should not have put her in the state she was in.
Yeah.
And so
that's some funky shit when
and yes, that does happen in the party scene. You know, it's, I don't want to know if I want to say common story, but you hear about it happening. The fact that there's so many stories about it happening on Rainy Street, though, like it seems a very concentrated.
It does.
Event.
Yeah. Yes. It really. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of Neptune themes here. And that makes me think this is what's going on. These people are either being lured or
drugged and lured.
Yeah. Seems to be a case here. Anything, you know, we got Pluto in the 5th house here. That's another kind of maybe marker that, hey, what's in your drink or what, you know.
Yeah. Even Mars.
Yeah.
There in the 5th feels kind of aggressive. Like, but yeah.
So, Ellie, I don't know if I've ever asked you this. We can discuss it here. You know, in Hellenistic astrology, Mars is also a malefic. You look at Saturn and Mars as the malefic planets, and depending on whether you're born during the day or night, depends on which one's more malefic for the native. You know, but looking like at horary or forensic astrology, Mars still seems kind of like a, no matter what time of day, like a malefic, like something that does harm. In your views of astrology, you know, does Mars usually hold that negative?
In this kind of stuff, yes.
Okay.
Not so much in natal charts. Got it. In yes, in this kind of a in this kind of a chart in horary or event charts, yes.
And I know in horary, like we'll see Mars in the 8th house, or, you know, if there's a very violent death, Mars is pretty strong. So I know we see it that way. Looking at like this type of chart where you see Mars and Sag in like the 5th, does that automatically kind of put you in like, ooh, something negative's going on here, like with
maybe negative in a weird way? And I bring that up because I mean, it's wide, but it's still within the orb of the galactic center. Yeah. So if I were to read, you know, and in these charts, I do feel like Mars tends to be more aggressive, you know, in these sorts of charts, it's more aggressive. But within that orb of the GC, it feels weirdly aggressive.
Yeah. Is this more of like a passive aggressive?
Could be, or wonky aggressive. Because like, don't get me wrong, I love the GC, but it can be wonky as shit. So I'm thinking to myself, there is something a little off about the aggressiveness. It certainly could be passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Cause I was like, Mars here, to me, it's like, it's not ruling like the victim. It's not ruling the perpetrator, you know, it is ruling the 4th. But it's standing out to me in this chart. That's why I wanted to kind of pick your brain on it a little bit. It's just kind of like, it just stands out.
No, it definitely does, especially in the 5th house. It's about having fun, right?
Yeah.
It feels aggressive, but a little wonky aggressive. Could be passive aggressive, not regular aggressive, I guess.
And this is what's so like troubling about all these charts, is that we see the victims having fun. We see them having fun. We see them being social. And it's like, just, there's that danger nearby in the neighborhood, you know, and
And that sucks because nobody wants to think that when they go out for a fun night that there's danger alert. Like, that sucks. That fucking sucks.
It's the ultimate taking advantage of, like.
Yeah, it is. It is.
All right. So let's look at the chart when Aaron is found. All right. So this is October 11th. It's like 2 days later. 2014, 2:56 p.m.
Mercury retrograde.
Yes, Mercury retrograde. I'm just going to pull up. There we go. So, this, you have the sun at the top of the chart, not quite in the 10th, but at the top of the chart, visible. And we're finding this with the victims when they're found, their ruler is right up there. And we now have, let's see, Saturn in the 10th. Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's almost in the 3rd. Again, this person, if there's a perpetrator, is able to see recoveries and is watching this.
Yes. Yes. Seeing what's going on. Perhaps maybe it's Saturn in the 10th. I don't know. When I look at this, I think of a perpetrator that's thinking about how they can do better next time.
Like perfecting.
Yeah, and I realize that, like, in this chart, they would be ruled by the moon, but there's something about it. Saturn can be like, mastery. So it's like mastering death in Scorpio. I don't know. There's something about that I don't know.
I get that. Usually I get that because about Scorpio, just generally speaking about the sign of Scorpio, usually you look to like Virgo for perfection, but Scorpio does have an element of perfection.
Yes. Well, they're so researchy.
Yeah. And they're intense. Like it's, I mean, I live with a house full of Scorpios, so I know what I'm talking about here. Like, like me, Gemini, I'm like, if I can't do it, forget it. Or if I can't figure it out, this will do. No, my Scorpios will research until they can figure out how to get it right. Like if it takes days me and my husband, he's a Scorpio. We went to college together. We would take math classes. If I couldn't figure out the math problem I'd give it like 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm out. I got better things to do. He would stick on it for like hours.
I get it. My Mercury and Mars understand, and Scorpio understand that. Like, no, motherfucker, I'm gonna figure it out.
Right. Scorpio is intense. Like it. Yeah, you guys will devote however much time. All right, I didn't mean that you guys. I didn't mean to lump you in with a possible serial killer, but
No, but yeah, I get what you. It's the intensity. It's not in the same kind of Virgo way, but because Virgo's more, it is more about precision, perfection. This is it is different in Scorpio, but definitely the intensity.
It's like an action too, because I mean it's a Mars ruled sign as well. How do we do this right? Not So I see where you're seeing that. I do.
Yeah, it feels and since the 10th house in this chart you slipped, it would be the 4th house of like where the perpetrator's 4th house would be. It does feel more personal to them. Yeah.
And this is 2014. So if there's a perpetrator, if we have a serial killer, if we have, someone responsible for all these, and in this 2014, they're looking at like, how do I perfect this? How do I, maybe they see a little slip up, but maybe the police doesn't catch it. I don't know. Speculating here.
Yeah.
How do we move forward remaining, uncaught? And then we have, we're almost 10 years later and we're still seeing these. So
yeah.
I don't want to say it's working, but
if there is a perpetrator, it does. I mean, if there is a perpetrator, I want him to slip up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wouldn't even, I mean, this is just Brandy's opinion here. I wouldn't say they're doing this with perfection. You know, like they're right there out in the open. I feel like if this person were to ever be caught, if there was a person, and if they were to ever be caught, it would be one of those, oh my gosh, like all these people come out going, oh yeah, that person was weird. We've been like, you know, I know this person here every time I drink. Like it feels like it should be noticeable.
But it's, yeah. No, I get what you're saying about that. Yeah. It's
like how many, like with Ted Bundy, how many stories are there about him? Like,
yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree.
Any last thoughts about this chart before I take it down?
We
got Venus up there too again in Libra. We got the let's keep things a little pretty. We got a little pattern there. Like
I'm trying to think if there was anything else about this one. No, I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that's good.
So final thoughts, you know, kind of the going into this, you know, the question is there a serial killer? is there, you know, foul play with all of these? Could some of these be accidents? You know, just focusing on the 6 that we did between the 2 parts here. I didn't see one that looked accidental.
I didn't either. I didn't either. No. No, I think you know, some of these families have requested privacy. That's why in the one that we did for my channel, we didn't name a couple of them. I know Jason John's family though has been vocal. You mentioned Julio's family has been vocal.
Yeah.
Gutierrez's family has been vocal. They should keep being vocal. They should keep being vocal.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say so much, but when we're on these public videos, it's hard. But yeah, absolutely. Like, keep fighting, keep asking for answers and investigations. And my hopes are that at some point this gets resolved or figured out or prevented, or, you know, it's just.
Do you think it will? Because this person, I mean, if you think about it, if they're I mean, the Sagittarius optimist of me wants to say yeah, but there's another part of me that's like, I don't know.
I'm a little bit in the middle here. I feel like at some point some slip up could happen, or you know, we could if there's a person, if there's a perpetrator, they could get caught doing something. I don't know if it will get tied into everything.
Or maybe, are you thinking something like maybe they get, I don't know, arrested on some kind, possibly arrested on some sort of similar charge, but it's not. I mean, there's so many Mercury retrogrades in those charts, like the way it does. Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder if, even if this person is caught, he might not be caught for, or they might not be caught for this.
Yeah, it may not be for homicide or for it might be they got caught trying to drug someone.
Yeah.
Or abduction, or you know, kidnapping, holding someone against their will, or something kind of funky. Yeah, I don't know if it will be tied to everything, but that's just my opinion. Families should still fight for answers, you know, but
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me ask you this, like one person, two people, what's your thoughts on a possible, if there's a perpetrator, is it one or is it multiple?
That's a good question, you know? It could be multiple. It could be.
Like a team effort.
It could be. It could be. I'm trying to remember. It seemed like a lot of the, and I can't remember exactly what bars they were at. I do know a couple of them, a couple of the victims were reported to have been at the bar that I went to last night, the one with multiple levels. I do know that. That's one of the reasons why I
Ellie, you crazy.
Well, I was just standing off in a corner, you know, sitting there asking this guy what the fuck his problem was because he was looking at me weird.
Oh man, you should have asked me more questions. Like
he was kind of, I was like, what's your problem? He scurried along. But I can be, but
we appreciate you going out and investigating for, you know, me and the viewers. We appreciate
well,
you.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, you know, it's not often that I'm in the place where I can do that. You know, if I can do that, I find, you know, like I was talking about the Scorpio in me, it enjoys that. That's, you know, that's kind of the investigations. But it seemed like a lot of these bars, they weren't all at the same bars. So it's possible, and it would be smart that if there was one perpetrator that they were moving around, right, from bar to bar, you know what I mean, like that.
Yes.
Or it could be multiple people at different bars, you know. I mean, I'm figuring this is, and I'm not accusing the bartenders or anything like, I'm certainly not. I just want to throw that out there, but it is happening. If they're being drugged, it's happening in a bar. Because I didn't really see anybody just walking around with booze on the street. Like they're kept, from what I understand anyway, they're kept in the bars or in the outside garden areas of the bars. And I'll tell you this, I do think that it's interesting that part of Rainy Street that has all the bars, people, and I don't blame them. I mean, they're all drugged, they're all having a good time, but it was like nothing had really happened. And well, that's fine. I get people want to go out and have a good time. It does, like I'm watching these people, they're all, you know, they're having a good time. They're dancing on tables at this one place I was at. Drinks are left unattended. And I'm thinking, fucking cover them. Like, or fucking keep them. Yeah, cover them, hold them, dance on the table all you want, but hold them. Or you know what I mean? Like, I'm watching this.
Anywhere, like whether you're in an area where possible serial killings are happening or what it's just a good thing to do. Like
it is.
It's scary out there.
It is scary out there, but especially when you're finding all these things happening, right? In this area, it's like cover them, hold them, whatever. I mean, have a good time, but just, you know, try to keep your wits about you, you know.
Yeah.
Those kind of wits about you.
It is interesting for you to be in that area and to see that happening, like people leaving their drinks unattended after knowing there's some funny, at least some weird shit happening.
Yes.
In the area. Yeah, it's interesting.
It is, and especially even with all the reportings of people having been drugged, right? And they made it out on the other side fine, but they feel like they were drugged. And again, I know, and I'm not blaming anything, you know, they're having fun, they're having a good time, but I'm thinking to myself, damn guy, cover that drink. Damn girl, cover that fucking drink. You know, I'm not saying that, I'm keeping it to myself, but I'm thinking, damn, you know.
I don't know if it's because we study true crime, but in any given situation, I can think about anything that could go wrong or what any person could do, or
you know. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, you know, I think yeah, studying true crime and stuff, it does kind of cause you to be more aware of things that could go wrong,
possible weaknesses in a scenario. Yeah. Well, on that note, if you're out on Rainy Street in Austin, be careful.
Yes. Yeah, that's something I didn't say on mine, but yes, absolutely. be fucking careful. Have fun, but be careful.
Be cautious. Don't leave drinks unattended. Don't go off with anybody. It's like the standard rules, right? But
Yeah.
like even
Don't
like
yeah, don't go off at 2 a.m. Don't go off to that fucking trail area. There's fuck all going on over there anyway. There's like seriously, there's nothing open at that time over
you
there.
don't need to go over there. Whether
No.
either accidents or whether someone's killing, like stay with your friends until your car shows up.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah.
On that note, Ellie, where can everyone find you? Because you also do natal astrology and personal astrology.
Yes.
We do a lot of things, so tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me at saturnseason.com. That's my website. Let's F with Astrology on YouTube and Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Where can you be found?
BrandyBoroughAstrology.com and YouTube and Instagram, Brandy Borough Astrology. And if you're old school on Facebook, like I am, I think it's Brandy Borough Astrology and Tarot. It's a little different.
I think you're right. I think that is what it is.
Yeah, I like to, change it up a little. I do astrology readings and tarot and mediumship and Reiki and a little bit of palmistry here and there. So yeah.
Oh, and this is something that I forgot to say, and I feel like an asshole for not saying this that I meant to, and I forgot. Or didn't forget, but got wrapped up.
Big one. It's kind of hard to keep our thoughts together with this one. So
yeah, yeah. I am so sorry. Brandy is so sorry for everybody that's lost somebody in this. Just because there are so many. Like truly, my heart goes out to you. I know yours goes out to them too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we're sympathies to the family, condolences. That's why we do this. We want to try to put some clues out there, like if we can, or maybe if anything, if the family is struggling to get answered, maybe this is validation. I don't know, but I hope something positive comes out of this. It's something me and Ellie take very seriously. Our whole motivation behind forensic astrology is for truth, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for truth and to be helpful, like to try to help in some way. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I think that's a fantastic way to end it. You guys be careful out there, and my hopes, prayers, thoughts are with these families, and I hope they get their answers. I really do.
I hope they do too.
All right, till next time.
Till next time.